All right, guys, Hallie with Keep It Dirty Off-Road. Thanks for coming back to the channel. This week we're talking off-road gear, and we're talking my top 3 list of gear you should carry when you're going with off-road groups. Now, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and please hit that subscribe button to help us grow. We release videos weekly as we work on the truck or go on off-road adventures here in Southern California. So stay tuned till the end of this video for a bonus tip too as well when you're running with groups. Now, off-roading is a really great hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it. But it can be a whole lot more enjoyable when you find like-minded people to run with. I used to off-road by myself all the time, and it was very risky. And if you get stranded, you basically have to get yourself out unless somebody else comes on the trails. And where I was going, there was nobody going. But this hobby for me has been a whole lot more enjoyable finding other people to roll with. You know, people that have the same interests, want to go exploring like I do. And I can't tell you how much more enjoyment I get out of this hobby by sharing it with others and getting more people in it. Now, being a part of a couple off-road groups over the years, probably the most common question I get is, I've never run with off-road groups before, and what kind of gear do I need? Usually they start going into, I have straps, I have a compressor, I need to get a compressor, or I'm upgrading my truck, I can't go out till I've upgraded my truck, and tons of other gear that, they don't actually need, and especially when you're running with a group. In a group, it does not matter what recovery gear you're carrying or what gear you have. What matters is what the group has. Chances are that collectively as a group, you will have a ton of gear already, and a lot of it will be double. Not saying eventually you won't need all that extra gear, rather that you'll need to focus on what you need to roll with that group, stay safe, have more fun, and not be a burden to that group. My number 3 gear that you should carry is an extra spare, 2 spares. When you're going off-roading, you need a backup for your backup, especially if you're doing an extended trip or somewhere that is very remote. You don't want a flat tire to basically ruin your day or end your trip early. A second spare will extend your fun and give you that extra bit of security on the trails. I've actually been on trips before where I had to use both of my spares. 3-day trip into the Mojave, I got a flat on day 1. And I got another flat on day 2. And trails were pretty rough that day. It would have completely sucked, and it actually would have ended our trip right then and there after the first flat. Luckily, I had 2 spares, and so did my trail partner that ride. She still had both of her spares, so we were able to finish our run. Now, if she had gotten a flat, then yeah, our day would have been ruined and our weekend would have been done, and we would have been looking for a way out so that we could at least make it out. But because we were both prepared, we just lost a little time changing the flats, but our adventure was not ruined and we were able to keep exploring. My number 2 gear or mod that you should do for off-road group runs, chase lights. You need a way to stay visible on the trails. It's gonna get really dusty out there, sometimes so thick you won't even be able to see directly in front of you. A good set of off-road lights will help make sure you're more visible so that others can see you, reduce the chances of you running into each other, and really, if you're running with Raptors, it's a must. You're gonna need it because you're gonna be averaging 40 to 60 miles an hour on dirt, and you're gonna need chase lights so that you guys can stay away from each other. But even your Jeep groups can benefit highly from chase lights too. Now, the type of lights and location matters. You don't necessarily want to get something too bright that's going to blind somebody, so you want to try to shoot for a floodlight, something with a wide pattern. You also want to get something that has amber covers on it. Yellow light cuts through dust much better than white light, and it's visible for longer and farther. So again, amber is very important. Now, the location matters. The higher, the better. Don't put them on your bumper. They're just not effective if you put them low on your bumper. We're going up and down the trails into washes and so on, and installed below the bumper, you can't really see it. As soon as you go into a wash or you hit a little bump, that gets hidden and the person behind you loses visibility, right? So you lose sight very quickly if you saw them low. So again, my recommendation is to install them at about eye height or higher, so at the top of the bed, or like you see on mine, at the top of the rack. Your best option for trucks is an integrated third brake light option that gives you the ability to put chase lights up there. Here you're seeing GJ Motorsports third brake light option. Very simple install, comes with 3 S2s, 2 of them amber, and it has the option for an antenna mount, which is kind of key. It's kind of hard to find a good spot for an antenna. It is pricey though. These things get well into the $700 range when you add the antenna mount because of the cost of all the lights, but
GJ's kit comes with everything you need. There is another option from Evo Off-Road, very similar solution. The only difference is Evo's solution requires drilling. Now there are other options by mounting the lights on a rail or on a rack. We're going to go over some of those options here.
Casey has a couple of options, from a full-on chase bar that's designed for UTVs but can also be used on vehicles, that has chase lights, brake lights, and turn signals built in to put them as high as possible. Casey also has the KC Flex lights. In their flood configuration with amber covers, are extremely bright and very effective to keep you visible on the trails. And then on the lower end side, the cheaper side, you got your KC Cyclones. KC Cyclones are a really great, super low cost option that gives you some visibility. Now keep in mind, the light output from the KC Cyclones is very little, so don't expect that to carry as far as, say, a KC Flex or their chase bar. But it's a good option to have on a budget. Other options include like Rigid's Dually series, the little pod series. Baja Design S2s are excellent. They might be a little bright, but they're really good as chase lights. And you know, doesn't really matter what you get. You can even get some of the cheaper brands. I always recommend the high-end brands because you get what you pay for when it comes to lights. And if you buy those guys, you're gonna have less issues, but you can really get any cheapo lights to be your chase. The main thing is you wanna get something that's a floodlight. You don't wanna get a driving light. Now, number one, the most important gear you will need when you're off-roading with groups is comms. And to me, it is the most important by far. If you're upgrading your truck, it should be your first mod. You're gonna need a radio to stay in contact and to stay safe on the trail, because you can use a radio to stay together, call out obstacles, call out any oncoming traffic, any stopped vehicles. If you need help, it's a way to call for help. Or if others need help, it's a way for them to call you so you can go help. And with raptor groups, it allows the group to stay together in contact and be able to run faster and cover more miles and explore more. And for me, that's a big plus, right? You want to be able to explore more. Now, the type of radio you're going to use will really depend on the group you're running with. Jeep groups, for example, can get away with low-powered radios or handhelds, right? Something like the GMRS handheld radios that we're probably all most familiar with. You can buy at any store, or like CB handheld radios. Those are usually limited to about 5 to 8 watts of power. They're only good for line of sight, so if you can see each other, you can talk to each other. Really great for slow runs when you're rock crawling or you need to get a spotter or something like that. But for Raptors and pre-runners, you're gonna need something much stronger that can go farther. Raptors can end up being miles apart. Depending on the size of the group, it can be anywhere between 5, 10, even 20 miles from the first truck all the way to the tail truck. So you need something more powerful. You need a different kind of radio to stay in communication. So for Raptor groups, you're gonna need a VHF radio, something that's 50 watts or more that's hardwired into the truck. Now they do make handheld VHF radios that are about the same wattage as your typical CB radios, about 5 to 8 watts. But just like any other handheld with such low power, you can't really rely on them. They're only good for line of sight. And chances are that when you're on the trails, they won't be able to hear you once you lose sight of them. You might be able to hear them, but they're not going to hear you. A hardwired radio will get you more range and keep you in contact longer, keeping you safer and allowing you to have more fun. Okay, now as far as recommendations, if you just want to get started and see if VHF radios are going to be working for you, I recommend getting started with the handheld. If you check our Amazon influencer page, you'll find a link to this little guy. This is a kit that we found online that for 40 bucks gets you the radio, an extra battery, a regular charger, a car charger, and an extended range antenna. You know, well over $120 worth of equipment for 40 bucks. You're not gonna find the better deal, so check out our Amazon influencer page. It's linked below to get this little bad boy. It's a 5-watt radio and it'll at least get you started so you can start joining some of these runs. Eventually though, you're gonna wanna upgrade to a hardwired radio. I run Rugged's RM60 kit, which is a 60-watt radio. It's a really good radio, but nowadays when you buy those radios due to new FCC restrictions, you're only able to run pre-programmed frequencies, so you have to run one of the pre-programmed frequencies available. Another option for radios, especially those that live around here in Southern California, is to look at some of the bigger retailers. There's a line of stores called Ham Radio Outlet that can get you the best deals on VHF radios, and they have very helpful staff. They have several inexpensive options. The staff is really helpful and knowledgeable. They don't install, but they can get you hooked up with the right radio and antenna combination and unlock and reprogram the radio for you, so you don't have to worry about all that stuff. There are options on Amazon, cheap options for hardwired radios, but they are hit or miss, and that's why I don't have one yet on my Amazon page, and I don't have one to recommend to you guys. Some already come unlocked, some do not come unlocked. You don't know what you're gonna get until you get it. And unlocking those radios actually requires opening them up and modifying the circuit boards in order for them to work. And then on top of that, you have to find an antenna that'll match your radio. So it's kind of a headache. So unfortunately, I don't have an Amazon option for you guys. I am looking for one, so be on the lookout on my page, and I'm hoping somebody can basically provide an example in the comments below that'll help out. Now, I also have a bonus tip for you guys when it comes to riding with groups, and that is just have a good attitude. Chances are you're going to be joining somebody else's run. Listen and pay attention to how they run their groups. Follow their rules. Everybody has slightly different rules. A lot of them will have different rules on radio etiquette. Hopefully your group knows trail etiquette. Yeah, there's a lot of groups that don't, but that's for another video. We'll cover that later. And then you pay attention to any rules they have on how everybody should handle themselves on the trail, especially if you're going on one of these larger paid runs. On my runs, we're always doing driver meetings to get everybody on the same page, make sure everybody understands what we won't allow, basically anything illegal. We also do tips to make sure everybody has more fun, like, don't ride in people's dust trail. If you can't see in front of you, slow down, stage, even stop. Just make sure you call it on the radio. And we do that because we don't want anybody to feel any kind of pressure to run faster than what they're capable or what they're comfortable with. So when I structure a run, I usually try to put the fast trucks up front, slow or less experienced run in the back. Everybody runs at their own pace. Nobody pushes anybody else. If you want to run faster than the guy in front of you, just ask him to pass, right? Over the radio or at the next break. Just ask him, hey, can I pass you? And usually I like to have an experienced truck both on front and on back to make sure that everybody makes it home. The idea is we want to make sure everybody has fun, does not feel any pressure, and we want to take all the worry away so that you guys can have more fun on these trails. All right, guys, I hope you guys found these tips helpful, and I hope you guys start taking the plunge and start enjoying your rigs more with friends. If you want to join me on an off-road run, you can. You have a couple options. You could check out Raptor Off-Road Community, ROC's Facebook page, or raddrives.com for all the organized runs we're doing this year. You can also check out my personal page, Helio Muro or Keep It Dirty Off-Road on Instagram, and you can join me on a run. I go out most weekends, whether it's for fun or for scouting trails. All vehicle types and experience levels are welcome, so if you're rolling a Jeep, that doesn't matter, come join us. And we try to announce ahead of time if you need anything special like four-wheel drive. Don't have any gear? Don't worry about it. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram or an email here, and I'll help you guys get started and answer any questions you guys may have so that you can get out there and start having fun with more people. We run and explore all the time. We do fast runs, we do slow runs, we do all types. Just come out with us to have some fun. To get started, all you need is a VHF radio. Handheld is okay to get started. But if you like the hobby, invest in hardwired radio and eventually. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Get out there on the trails, get those trucks nice and dirty, and we'll see you guys on the next one.